What if I told you you don't need foundation to create this look? What if I told you all you needed was concealer? Hey boos, welcome back to my channel, and today we're gonna do a no fluff, beginner friendly makeup tutorial. Now I know you heard in the beginning of my video when I said all you needed was concealer. And let's take it up another notch. 97% of the products I used today was drugstore makeup. So not only you don't need any foundation, you can totally create this look with just concealer. Now, if you pay attention to the right-hand corner, you'll see the products that I use to create this look. Now, the concealer that I use to match my skin tone that you saw me dotting my blemishes off in the beginning of the video is Deep Chestnut from e.l.f. 16-Hour Camo Concealer Matte Finish. I'm using that same concealer to carve out under my eyebrows. Now, this concealer dries down kind of fast, so work with that in mind. I also use that concealer around my mouth just to even everything out. To give myself extra coverage, I also use e.l.f.'s Color Concealer in Orange to help even everything out. I also place it on top of where I placed my concealer and under my eyes because I have just a little bit of dark shadow under there too. I use a dense foundation brush and I spritz Milani's Make It Last setting spray before I go in and buffing everything together. We're not dragging the foundation brush across our skin because we don't want to cause streaking. We are just dabbing everything in place. Now, I don't want to make my whole face orange. I just want to concentrate on the parts that have a little bit more depth than the others. So I take a fluffy makeup brush and I focus on those areas and buff out the orange color corrector. Again, we're lightly dabbing, not dragging the brush all over because we do not want streaking. Now, the part of where the concealer and the color corrector meets will be more on the peachy tone compared to the other parts of your face. And that's okay because we're going to take the dense foundation brush that has the concealer that matches your tone and we're going to buff everything together all over, kind of shearing things out just a little bit. Now that my base is on, I'm going to take my highlighted concealer, which is e.l.f. Hydrating Camo Concealer in Neutral Tan, to put it under my eyes. I'm going to let it dry down just for like 30 seconds and then I'm going to buff it out. The fact that I put on a base that was more so my skin tone and layering with the orange color corrector allows me to not have that ghostly effect when putting on a lighter concealer. Also, this concealer is probably just a shade and a half lighter than my complexion, so it shouldn't give flashback. I take that excess concealer and bring it up to my eyelids because I'm also going to use that as a base for my eyeshadow. And I do the same thing for my lip and chin. I add a little bit more of the highlight concealer and just dab it on in place. If I wanted to go with a brighter concealer, I would just place it on top of what I'm using now because, again, layering helps combat flashback. I use that excess and bring it up the bridge of my nose onto the center of my forehead. This is a natural, beginner-friendly makeup look, so I'm not going heavy-handed with the products. And if it doesn't look scary in the beginning, then you're not doing it right. Makeup looks scary in the beginning and then it all comes together. I'm using e.l.f.'s Rich Chocolate Hydrating Camo Concealer as my bronzer. And you can create the fish look here to accentuate your cheekbones. And go ahead and work up. Not down, but up. We put it over in our jawline and in our forehead corners. We work it into our hairline and then bring it to the center to melt the previous concealer and also work it across our jawline and bring it down to our neck. Again, we're not dragging, we are buffing. And you can bring it down to your neck to your collarbone. We want to make sure everything matches and is cohesive. No line of demarcation here. Now I'm using a moist beauty sponge, I believe this is from e.l.f. also, to blend out any creases under my eyes before I set it with powder. Now moist means slightly damp. You don't want your sponge to be too wet. It will break up your product. Now I'm using a makeup puff to set with foundation powder from CoverGirl's Clean Fresh in 200 Rich. Anywhere that I had my highlight concealer, I just go ahead and set with my powder foundation. Around my mouth, on the bridge of my nose, the center of my head, under my eye, you name it, it's getting set with powder foundation. And the powder foundation is my complexion, so it just makes everything look skin-like. I'm going to set my liquid bronzer with my powder bronzer from Fenty and the name of Caramel Cutie. The whole point of powder is for longevity. So anywhere that's liquid, you want to set it with powder so it doesn't move. The same rules applies with powder bronzer. We're going down the neckline, on the jawline, under the cheekbone, working upwards and into the hairline on the forehead. To give a little bit more brightness and extra coverage, I'm going to bake with loose setting powder, and this is from Prime Beauty in the shade Honey Love, and we're going to bake just a little bit. I left it on for a couple of minutes, and I'm putting it under my eye, around my lip, on my chin, and on my forehead. And I'm not that heavy-handed. It's just a little something extra. I'm also using the baking method as a buffer for when I do my eyeshadow, just in case there's any fallout. I'm using my beauty sponge to buff out any creasing on my eye before I go ahead and use whatever's left on my brush to add just a little bit more concealer as my base. I'm using my bronzer from Fenty, again, Caramel Cutie, as my first layer of my eyeshadow. You want to lightly buff it into your eyelid, taking your time to blend it all in and just slightly move it out towards your corner of your eye. The further you hold your brush, the less pressure you're putting on your eye. You can stop right here, or if you want a little bit more depth, then get a darker shade of brown. I'm using my other bronzer shade from Juvia palette in the color Tan. I'm using the darker tan out of the two. Fun fact, I'm using the same eyeshadow brush because it's literally a shade darker brown and I want the depth. The secret is in the blend. So I tap out the excess, and before putting it on my eye, and I go ahead and I buff it out and smoothly just run it across my eyelid. For blush, I'm taking my Juvia's Place Blush Rogue Volume 4 palette, and I'm using the darker pink on my cheekbones, and I'm applying it in a C motion, connecting my cheekbones and my temple. Blush just makes you look more lively, gives the look a little bit of character, a little bit of youthfulness, some color to the whole look. Instead of sweeping away the loose powder, we're going to take the same powder puff and we're going to press it in to the skin like you see me doing here. In doing that, I'm keeping the brightness that the powder left. Even though this is a very natural look, your face still has highlight points, and that's what the loose powder gives the effect of. I'm taking Caramel Cutie and I am outlining the bridge of my nose. I'm taking the excess powder and patting it out before I go ahead and apply the product onto my face. And I'm just accentuating the bridge of my nose up into the inner corner of my eyes, just under the beginning of my eyebrow, down to the tip of my nose. I'm taking my Milani Make It Last setting spray and just melting everything together. A little dance break because this is looking so good. I'm taking my dense foundation brush and pressing the setting spray into my skin. And any product left over from the foundation brush is just melting in as well. Now I'm taking my mascara from Morphe and I'm adding on the first layer of mascara onto my eyelashes. Now the trick to having dense eyelashes from mascara is taking your time and making sure every strand is coated. The inner corners, the outer corners, under the eye, over the eyelashes. You can't leave any baby lashes behind. Now I'm using Maybelline Eyeliner Tattoo, and I'm just carefully putting it in my inner waterline. Now the second secret to beautiful natural eyelashes: you use more than one mascara. This mascara is from Wet n Wild. It's called Mega Length. Now I'm going to bake the bridge of my nose with my loose setting powder. And while I do that, I'm going to go ahead and put my lip liners on. The first lip liner I'm using is from Wet n Wild, and it's called Chestnut. Ever so slightly overlining my lip just a little bit. It is a warmer brown, leaning more towards on the redder clay side. On top of that, I'm using NYX lip liner, and it's called Nutmeg. Another shade of brown that's a little bit more neutral. I'm using lipstick from Maybelline called Naked Dare, and it's a pretty satin nude color that pairs well with these two lip liners. To top off this lip combo, I'm using Fenty's Glow Fantasy, and it's this pretty orange shimmer lip gloss that ties the look all together. And what I love so much about this lip gloss is that it's not sticky and has the perfect amount of shimmer. Now I'm going to take my powder puff and press the loose powder that was on the bridge of my nose into my skin. And I'm going to take whatever product I had left on my brush from my bronzer and accentuate the bridge of my nose again. One more time, I'm going to take my setting spray, my Milani Make It Last, to put the final mist to set and melt everything together. Now, you know, I've been preaching about showcasing your authentic self, so I gotta, make sure my fro is on point. Make sure there's no line of demarcation. Get behind the ears, ladies. And here you have it, skin-like, beginner-friendly makeup. See you guys next time. Love you.